167 of Coffee and Co-Read, your source for all things literary with Catherine
and Kristen, where we believe there's nothing better than a hot coffee and an awesome book. Join us for our virtual book club where we take one book a month and dive into all the drama, adventure, and romance we can find. Hi, Catherine.
Hey, Kristen.
So, we sort of, I feel like, have touched on this topic in the past, but our little discussion this week is going to be on secondhand book sales.
Yeah.
Because we've visited a few.
Yep.
In the past month.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we just want to talk about the positives to the secondhand books. Maybe if there are any negatives to secondhand book sales.
Well, I feel like we hit a negative or heard about a negative this weekend.
Yes, the growing popularity of secondhand book sales.
Which is good.
Yeah. So, tell me your thoughts.
Yeah. I guess I love a secondhand book sale. We talked about a new book that you bought last week, and you were like, it was $40-something bucks, wasn't it?
Yes, $42.99.
Yeah. For a new book. And, like, it was, like, sprayed edges and stuff. But a lot of books now, when they come out, a lot of the newer books, newly released ones, they only have a sprayed edge edition. They don't actually have plain editions for their first run.
And if you want a paperback, you gotta wait, like, 3 or 4 months for the paperback to come out.
At least. Sometimes it's even more. Because that's what I do with, Emily Henry is a romance author, and, like, I like her books, but I'm never, like, they're all just so pretty in paperback. Like, she has a new one out, but I can't read it till I get it in paperback. But I think hers are, like, a year, because she's more of a traditional published author. But yeah, so books are fucking expensive now, and who knows? I think they're only going to go up and up because of the state of the world.
Yeah, just the rising cost of living and
so
just general costs of manufactured goods.
Yeah. And so I love a secondhand book sale. And there's a lot of books that, like, if I read them as a child or read them at the library, or through Audible or something like that, if I just read the audiobook, I'd like to own them, but I can't, like, convince myself to pay the $20 to $40 for the physical new copy. So they're ones that I'll, like, keep an eye out when I go to a secondhand book sale.
Yeah.
So I love book sales for that. I love, like, finding books that I've read before that I kind of forgot about.
Or, like, maybe, so we were at a book sale a few weeks ago, and I had an author that I had sort of discovered and found a bunch of her stuff.
Yeah.
So, like, I wasn't 100% sold on, because I hadn't read the books before, but I managed to find a few things from that author to try out. Right? For, like, $3 to $5 for a book, which is awesome, because you get to, like, see how you feel about an author without spending ridiculous amounts of money on it.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's great for stuff like that. Definitely.
It's also really helpful, like, what we sort of discovered at the most recent book sale we were at is, you know, if things have come to light about certain authors that you maybe disagree with, I'm not, like, swaying anyone's opinions one way or another, but, like, for an example, a lot of personal opinions, J.K. Rowling has come out and discussed their personal opinions on things, and others may not 100% agree with them.
I don't think you should call J.K. Rowling their personal opinions.
Or maybe I'm doing that on purpose.
Yeah.
Maybe that's intentional.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying. Like, she has some opinions that a lot of the world does not agree with, that a lot of people don't agree with. So, you know, if you want to read Harry Potter, then getting it at a secondhand book sale is a good way to go, because, you know, you're not giving her any more money.
Yeah, right? Definitely.
So,
and that's the thing with, like, a few authors. Like, I don't mind buying new books. I don't know. It's hard, like, we did see another book there too, and it was like H.P. Lovecraft, and it's like, he's canceled because he's like, he was like anti-Semitic, I believe, and really terrible to women.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like if I were to buy his books, I don't know exactly where the money would go, so I would probably try to look into that first to make sure like his children and ancestors aren't pieces of shit as well. But where he's dead, it's easier to kind of like
justify
separate the art from the artist, as people love to say.
Yeah.
But with someone, I think, like J.K. Rowling, it's much harder to do that because she is profiting from anything you buy that actually has like the Warner Brothers seal of Harry Potter or the book sales. So yeah, it is a good spot to buy the books if someone is looking to read them, I think.
Yeah. And to be specific, I guess we were looking at Neil Gaiman, and that sort of is what came up. Is apparently he's had some struggles with women and consent, yeah. So like, that's not something I was aware of, and so yeah. So, knowing who you are, and again, like, no shame to anyone that still chooses to, to separate those two things. Like the I'm sure people are still listening to Drake. People are still listening to P. Diddy. People still listen to R. Kelly. Like, people still listen to...
The proceeds for R. Kelly's songs now, though, go to his victims. So...
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm pretty sure on Spotify. I heard that. Oh, shit.
Okay.
I hope that's right.
That's awesome. But you know what I mean? Like, also, what's his face? Nick. No. The guy that was with Rhiannon.
Oh, Chris Brown.
Like, people still, like, people still listen to these authors despite, and they do have that separation of art versus the artist. Like, that does still exist. So, we're not shaming people for your beliefs or for how you choose to consume content. If you choose to make that distinction, that is completely up to you and how you want to spend your money. So, like, fill your boots. But, we are choosing to be, try and be a little bit conscious about where our money goes.
Yeah. And it's hard, because it's hard to know about all of the shitty things that people have done. Because, like you said, like, you hadn't heard about Neil Gaiman, which is, like,
had no
fair.
idea.
I think I only heard because Jeff has read quite a few of his books, like the Sandman comics and stuff. But, like, I saw something being like, who's a good author to read now that I don't want to buy any more of Neil Gaiman's books? And I was like, what's happening? So, like, if you're not chronically online, a lot of this stuff can pass you by.
Yeah.
So it can be hard to be up to date on what authors have done something shitty.
Yeah.
To be honest.
And I will be completely transparent. I was shocked at this Neil Gaiman controversy, I'll say, because he has made it sort of his identity of being this really cool, down-to-earth guy that actually, like, responds to people's tweets and, like, is very much the everyman on social media. Like, he has made his living being that sort of an author. So when you told me about that, I was very surprised. I was like, Neil Gaiman, really? Like, because he has developed such a following of being, like, cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't mean cool like hip. I mean cool like
approachable.
Yeah. And, like, down to earth and, like, humble and not a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So to hear that he has some allegations against him of, being aggressive with women and not taking no for an answer is definitely shocking and eye-opening.
Yeah. Yeah, and it feels like it's happening more and more, to be honest. Mm-hmm. So every time it happens again, it gets a little less shocking, but it's still like, I don't know, disheartening.
Yeah.
To like all of the memories you have of a series and of books that you've read, to be like, I didn't realize that this person was that much of a piece of shit that they're gonna donate money to fucking get laws turned and stuff. Like, it's just wild. It's anyway. Well, that wasn't necessarily where we were going to take this.
No, it's not. But
just as an FYI to you, I was thinking of so the guy, the book sale thing we went to this weekend was just at a little local brewery, and there's an author that my boyfriend likes who there was a signed copy of a book there. And he mentioned it to the guy. He was like, oh, you have a signed copy. That's really cool. And the guy was just like, yeah, I got it at Value Village. So he paid probably like $5 for this book, but then was selling it for $275 as a signed copy. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what I was thinking about. Oh. I kind of forgot about the Neil Gaiman thing, to be honest. Okay. But that's what I was like. There are like, I don't know. I love when it's
sketchy for like deals.
Yeah, I love when it's because the one we went to a few weeks ago wasn't a for-profit one. It was like people donate books, they organize them. It was a huge area. You go around, you look at it, and the books are just priced certain prices based on whatever. But all of it went to a charity. Mm-hmm. An organization kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like people buying it for profit, which is a thing that happens a lot at like those secondhand, the thrift stores. People will buy stuff there and try to sell it.
Yeah.
Which, like, I don't know. I'm of two minds on it because I'm like, it's wild that he probably bought that book for like $10. Because I've bought I've bought books at Value Village that are signed before. That I didn't even realize they were signed until I got them home. I was like, holy shit. So, like, they're not priced because they're signed. It was just like...
This is a book.
Yeah. And he also made a comment that I didn't love, because it's a female author, but she writes strictly fantasy novels. And he was like, yeah, it was in the romance section, so I think nobody saw it. And I'm like, the romance section is the first section that was, like, devoured at the book sale that we went to a few weeks ago. Like, we got there the second day, I think, mm-hmm. and there was like nothing of romance or romantasy left. Yeah. Well, there were a few things. We did buy some things, but that is the section that's raked over first.
I'm sick of, and I guess sort of going off topic, and we're sort of like veering away from the point, but like, I'm just so sick of people devaluing romance as a genre. Like, since when is romance as a genre? Like, why is that looked down on so much? You know what I mean? Like, it's just annoying as fuck. Because, in fairness, romance is probably one of the hardest genres to write, simply because the formulas are already in existence, and, like, we all have expectations, so it is up to the author to surprise us and yet keep to the formula and the expectation. Sort of like what we were talking about with Noelle a couple weeks ago. Like, it just shocks me that, you know, people are still looking down on romance when it is so hard to reinvent it all the time, and yet people are doing it.
Yeah, and it's the highest. I've heard this before, so I'm going to repeat a fact that I've heard before without double checking it, because that's what I like to do today, apparently.
Yeah.
But it's the highest grossing literature right now is romance, which isn't surprising to us at all, because that's all that Book Talk and Bookstagram is.
Yeah.
And like everybody's into romance books now, I feel like.
Yeah, it has definitely exploded as a genre in the past few years, like since COVID and stuff, and it's sort of I feel like people were sort of using it as like a dirty secret before. Like, you would read romance, but you would never admit that you read romance. But now it seems like with, TikTok and book talk, it just seems like it has become way more popular and way more normalized to be like, yeah, I'm not ashamed to say that I like a wide choose romance with 3 different dudes.
Yeah.
Whereas I think pre-COVID, you would never admit that. You might read it, but you would never tell somebody.
Yeah. And I feel like Harlequin is a huge thing that was mostly like, my grandmother had 1,000 Harlequin books.
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like it was more of a secret.
Yeah.
Back then. And that's more, I think, a product of the time as well. But, yeah. I like living in a world where people talk about the romance books they've read. And it's all over podcast and Instagram and stuff. So, yeah.
And we can read Den of Vipers and it be okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So yeah, I guess we kind of got into secondhand book sales, the pros, the cons, all that stuff. So just a heads up, this is not a spoiler-free zone, and things might get saucy.
So this is week 2 of our discussion of Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. We're reading chapters 11 to 23 today. So just as an update on last week, I gotta try and cover like all the different people, and it's annoying as fuck. So, Chaol and Yrene are sailing down. Yrene is pregnant, hasn't told anyone. I know, we hate it. Nesrin and Sartak are happy to be together. They're just living their best life, killing Valg. Then Aedion and Lysandra are dealing with, I'm gonna call them minor skirmishes as of right now. In Terrasen, fighting back against Erewhon's forces, but so far they're minor forces, while Aedion is a piece of shit towards Lysandra, and also while they deal with Darrow being a controlling asshole. Manon and Dorian have found the Crochans witches, but Manon has to figure out how to win them over, while Dorian figures out how to get to Morath, where he thinks the last Wordkey is.
Well, he knows it now, I guess, because Gavin told him.
Well, Gavin didn't explicitly say it, though.
He said Morath. He just didn't say he didn't say where in Morath. He was just like, it's in Morath, which is like helpful.
I didn't realize he came out, and I know we did this last week, but I obviously forgot. I blocked that bit out. I didn't.
Yeah, there was a lot more stuff happening in that conversation.
I didn't realize he explicitly stated it is in Morath, because next week we get further confirmation that it is in Morath. So I didn't realize that Gavin also confirmed it.
Why did we have to do this twice?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Dorian is trying to figure out how to prepare to sneak into Morath. And then our main crew of Rowan, Elide, Lorcan, and Gavriel are on their way to, is it like the Aedion kingdom? Is it a kingdom?
I don't know if we're ever told. To Acadia.
They're just trying to go to this area that's called Acadia, that they believe that Maeve could be holding Aelin. They're not 100% sure. She also could be in Dornell, where Elide wants to go, but they're closer to Acadia, so that's where they're going to try first to find Aelin. And Aelin is being tortured on the daily, and Maeve just had Fenris's twin brother, Connell, kill himself to punish Aelin and Fenris for disobedience, we'll say.
Yeah.
So I think I've covered everybody?
I think so.
Lovely. So that was our update. It's like 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
So
I guess the only thing is Nesrin and Sartak are with Chaol and what's her face. But that's
sorry, I took that as a given.
Yeah. I was just trying to think if there was more people, because I was like, I feel like I talked longer last week about how many people there are.
Oh, dear God. Anyway, so we start this week in Chaol's point of view, which, yay!
Your favorite.
Yeah, so he is currently conferencing with Nesrin and Sartak, and obviously Yrene, and also Sartak's sister, Hasar, about, they're trying to figure out where they should land. They're still at sea. So Nesrin and Sartak just had a scouting mission, as we discussed last week. They saw a portion of Erewhon's army, and it's really big. It's miles long. So they think that the army is around 10,000 strong, but that was exclusively foot soldiers. That did not include the Iron Teeth Witches, any of the Witch Towers, any of the Ilkin, or the Word Hounds. Like, nothing, I'll say, supernatural.
Yeah.
They also learned that this legion looked to be marching towards Anielle, which is Chaol's homeland. And they assume it's because his father hasn't bowed to Erewhon, which I find quite surprising.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like something his dad would be keen to do, because his dad is a piece of shit.
Yep.
Anyway, so, like, Chaol doesn't really get why he's sending an army of that size, when he could just send, like, do what he did for Rifthold, which is just send a few Iron Teeth. Like, one coven of Iron Teeth with Wyvern would decimate Anielle.
Yeah.
So he's like, why? And especially since he now controls most of the river, and he controls Rifthold, so, like, Anielle is very much on its own, so why bother sending such an impressive, like, army?
Yeah.
When he doesn't have to. And Yrene, because obviously she's always right, suggests that it's to sow as much fear as possible, and to sort of show Terrasen what's coming, and also destroy acres of land in the process. So they're just trying to frighten as many people as possible. So, I guess they ask Chaol, like, what sort of army does Anielle have? And he tells them that it has a small armed force, but essentially there's not one capable, like, the soldiers they have is not capable of defending against 10,000. Like, it's a small, I keep making references in my brain to Helm's Deep and, like, Lord of the Rings. It is very much that sort of a scenario in my brain.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right? So, like, they say that the keep can defend against a siege, but the keep is not big enough to keep the city safe. So, like, there's a castle behind fortified stone walls, which is the keep, and then I guess there's a village outside of that. And Chaol's just saying the keep is not big enough for everybody, so it'll keep safe those that his father deems worthy, and that's it. So he's trying to decide, along with Sartak and Nesrin and Hasar, and I guess a little bit Yrene too, like, should they land and march inward to help Anielle? Or should they go to Terrasen? Or, third option, the town of Mia. Because I guess there's benefits to going there too. But, like, the issue is they have no idea what they're going to find either in Terrasen or Mia. They haven't heard anything. So they don't know what's going to happen there. So the thing is, Anielle is really close to the ferrying gap. So the issue is that they could get there, but they may cross paths with witches too. Mm-hmm. Because that's where the witches, remember in, was it book 2, book 3? When, like, that is the big sort of, that's the big
that's where
test.
The jump is that they did with the...
big test with the wyverns on whether they're ready is they have to do the jump off the cliff and they have to fly through the ferrying gap. So that's where the witches have been training. So they're close to there. So, you know, it's really important that they are aware that the witches could be training there. So they could absolutely come across witches.
Yeah, well, I think we know that half of the fleet of witches went to Morath and half stayed at F Gap.
Varian?
Yeah. Or near there. Sorry, I forgot the name of it.
Oh.
But that Manon went to Morath and her grandmother stayed with the other half at Varian Gap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess they gotta weigh, like, what's, you know, if they do march to Anielle, they could come across witches, and is that a good idea? Mm-hmm. So, like, Hussar doesn't want to bother. She's like, nah, it's such a small place. Is it worth it?
Yeah.
And Yrene does want to go.
Well, she's just like, it's Chaol's home.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's not really good enough reason.
But this is her, like, her noble, like, she's a good person. And, like, even if it kills everybody, it was for the right reasons. So, like, I'm using a lot of air quotes in this. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That's why Yrene wants to go, because it's what quote unquote good people would do. Right?
Yeah. But it's not what you would do in a real war, necessarily.
No, real war depends on strategy, right?
Mm-hmm. Which is what the rest of them are talking about. And she's like, but his family. But that actually is a bit more convincing to say his family. But she's like, it's his home.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not.
No,
Dorian is his home.
Absolutely.
Dorian is his family, Dorian is his home, and I will take no questions.
Yeah. So Sartak, because again, he is the heir to the the Cognate, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
So he decides that they will follow the river until it splits. So apparently it splits off with one way going to the ferrying gap and one way going to Anielle. So they're obviously going to take the split to Anielle. And they're going to go defend Anielle. And then they will actually take the ferrying gap towards Terracin. It's sort of like a shortcut. Mm-hmm. And they're going to try and take it from the witches. And they have their cavalry, they have their foot soldiers, but I guess they're going to have some of the Rook Riders, mm-hmm. but they're going to leave the fleet that they have now, the ships that they have, to meet up with Caution and the rest of the boats when they eventually show up. So they sort of took an advance, quick fleet.
Yeah.
With, like, I think they only have, like, 5 or 6 ships.
Something like that.
With, and it's got Rook Riders, it's got cavalry, it's got foot soldiers, it's got everybody, and then I guess it also has, Navy sort of personnel.
Mm-hmm.
So they're gonna leave the boats, but everybody else is gonna go to Anielle first. They're gonna win the war against the 10,000 strong, and then they're going to head straight for Terracin through the ferrying gap. So the issue is that obviously they have seen this army traveling to Anielle. Mm-hmm. And it is ahead of them. And Anielle needs to be warned. So Sartak offers to go and warn them on his Rook, because he'd probably get there fast. I guess you got to assume that soldiers and cavalry take longer to travel.
Yeah.
But Chaol decides, like, no, it needs to be me. So he asks, like, if he can spare, if Sartaq can spare a rook, he will go and warn his father. And in my mind, I'm like, did he ride a rook in Tower of Dawn?
No.
So how does he know how to ride one?
He just does.
And is he going by himself? Like, is Yrene gonna be there to help him walk? Does she need to be in close proximity? Can they be ages and ages apart and it not matter?
Yeah.
Whose rook are they taking? Because, like, every rook belongs to someone. Whose is he taking?
Because these are intelligent creatures, is what we got. Like, they don't just let anyone ride them.
Yes.
So, like, who are they, like, talking to the rooks? Like, hey, which one of you wants to take this guy?
Yeah, I'm just so confused.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't really get it, but he thinks that, like, he's sort of scared of facing his father again because his father's a piece of shit. And he also thinks, like, he doesn't know if he can stomach taking over the role of Lord when he needs to. But he's also conscious of, like, the fact that he does need to save his people. So, like, he's not so opposed to the idea of being Lord that, like, he's not gonna go chase his people down and save them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he doesn't want to be Lord, but he's also like, I have to save my people.
Yeah.
Like, he considers the people his. So.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't remember what happens with all of this at the end of the book, to be honest. It's one thing I forget. I'm like...
Anyway, so Sartaq agrees that, like, Chaol will go. I don't even remember if Yrene goes with him. She must.
She does. Yeah. I'll tell you now. It happens this week. No. She does.
She must.
Yeah.
So Sartaq says that he will leave in the next couple of days as soon as he gets the Rook Riders organized. They will all go, and then the foot soldiers will be a week behind them. Because I guess it takes a lot longer to organize foot soldiers than it does Rook Riders.
Yeah.
So, then we get Aelin's point of view. And this has to be one of my favorite chapters, to be fair. Yeah. I love this chapter so much. So, if you remember where we last left Aelin, she was chained up on the altar, and Maeve had just forced her on her knees and her hands in glass while Connell killed himself. And at the end of the chapter, or at the end of, I think it was the last scene we saw in last week, Fenris has been ordered to take the glass out of her knees and her hands, and she is crying for him because he can't properly grieve twin brother, and she's also crying for her, and, like, he is crying for her, and he is crying for himself, and they're just both crying. So, in her point of view now, we get that she is still on the altar. And, like, who knows if this is right after the glass incident, or if it's weeks later. Like, we have no idea.
Yeah.
But, like, she's been there so long that she's peed herself.
Yeah. And,
like, do they normally, like, I don't understand how they normally deal with her excrement.
I have no idea. Because I'm like, it seems like she's just on the altar or in the iron box. So, like, I don't know.
But, like, the fact that she has made it apparent, like, she's clearly said she was there so long she peed herself. Like, she relieved herself. And she doesn't even care anymore. Like, obviously, but, like, they can't free her to let her go pee because they don't let her free for anything.
Yeah.
So, I have no idea what's happening there, but So she's just been on the Iron Altar for ages and ages and ages. So she's peed herself. So she is what I call in her doomsday era. Because she knows that, like, even if she did outlast Maeve, like, even if she did manage to survive what is happening here, she wouldn't save Aurelia against Erewhon. Like, essentially, she's thinking, like, she's not strong enough to take on both, which is, like, valid.
Yeah.
It's like you have two enemies at the same time.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate.
Yeah. So, she is crying, and it's almost like she's actually finally broken. Mm-hmm. And then she hears Cairn enter the room, and he lets Fenris go relieve himself, and he teases her about what he's going to do when he, like, oh, she's not on the altar, she must be in the box. My bad. She must be in the box. So sorry. So she's in the box.
Yeah.
So he just says, like, what he's gonna do with her. He can't wait until he finally lets her out of the box. Mm-hmm. And, like, she feels really tired because she's been doing this for Terracin, and, like, she genuinely feels like she deserves to pay this price, which is so sad.
It is.
I hate it so much that she genuinely feels like she deserves this. Like, she deserves to be tortured.
That's crazy.
And I hate it. So she's in the box, and she hears a voice calling her Fireheart. And she instantly recognizes it as her mother's voice. And then her mother is asking her why she's crying. And Aelin tells her it's because she's lost, and she doesn't know the way. And then she sees her mother lying next to her in the coffin. And she tells her that Aelin has been so brave for so long. She just has to hold out a little bit longer. And to remember it is the strength of her heart that matters. And no matter what, it is her heart that will lead her home. And I could just bawl. Like, even repeating that, I could just bawl. Like, I genuinely could, because it's just so... Oh my god, I don't even know if I could put it in words.
Yeah.
Just, like, you could just read in the chapter how much, like, she's just a little girl who wants her mom.
Yeah.
Shit. I'm just, like, taking this because, you know, probably it's my parenting. That, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. No, I get it.
I just, like, I find it so heart-wrenching that she is being tortured, and she just wants her mom. Mm-hmm. Oh, anyway, so I guess, what's her name, Evelyn? Is it Evelyn?
Yeah.
Evelyn.
Yeah.
She tells Aelin that she was born of two mighty bloodlines, and that strength flows through her, and she does not yield. And then she disappears. So Cairn is, like, scraping the top of the lid of the coffin with his dagger, and sort of, like, teasing her and threatening her. And Aelin just keeps thinking of the words, "You do not yield." And she starts slamming her hand into the top of the coffin. And she just keeps smashing her fist into it again and again and again. And she just sort of lets that chant, "You do not yield," overwhelm her and enrage her, and she feels like it's a song. So Cairn yells at someone to get the Gloriella, and then there's, like, smoke in the coffin, and she does pass out because Gloriella is, I guess, some sort of...
Well, it's the same stuff that they used on Sam. It's the same stuff that they used on her when they caught her and brought her to...
Yeah, so
Dovir, basically.
It makes you pass out.
Yeah. And the same stuff they used on her when she went to KL with her dress, like, all bloody after she killed the guy.
Yeah. So she does pass out, but when she wakes up, there's a huge dent in the coffin lid. And she realizes that she almost broke it open.
Which is amazing.
It is
because
amazing.
Last week we were even saying that, like, she checked it completely to see if there was any way And then in this moment that she had her mother's strength, she was able to actually dent it.
Yeah. That's so amazing. So then we go to Rowan's point of view. So they're almost crossing over the border into Acadia territory when Rowan feels something. It's what he describes as a raging, fiery song, a bellow of defiance down the meeting bond. And Gavriel and Lore can actually feel it too. And they realize that it is a beacon of power. And that it is sent by Aelin. I don't even think she meant it. Like, I don't think she did it on purpose.
No, I don't think so.
She was just overcome by this emotion. So that's sort of what I was talking about last week. Remember, I was like, it's hard to tell whether that was real or was that her subconscious. Like, was her mom visiting her? Was that real or was that her subconscious?
Yeah. Was it what? Or
was it what she needed to hear in the moment, so she invented it? Or was it genuinely her mother's spirit?
Or was it a god sending either a real spirit of her mother or a fake spirit of her mother, right, because that's what she needed? It could be any of it, really.
It could. I didn't even think of that. So, like, it's so hard to know, and we never get confirmation.
No.
So, you know, if only. It would be really interesting to hear, like, whether that was real or not. I really would like to know.
Me too, yeah. Because it's, well, whatever it was real to her, I guess.
Yeah.
And it worked. But still, wild.
So, it's obviously, so again, it's her beacon of power that she sent out unknowingly. And obviously they can tell the direction that it came from, and they are feeling that it came from Dorian, just like Elide said. So, like, next time, listen to the woman in your party, for fuck's sakes.
Well, the god told her too, which is why I'm like, was this...
Like, you literally had a goddess telling a woman, and she's like, the goddess told me that that's where she is. And they're like, well, we're here. We might as well.
Yeah.
Ugh. Anyway. So, they decide, they're like, oh my god, for fuck's sakes, Aelin is in Dorian. So they're like, what can we do to draw Maeve out away from Aelin so that they can get into Dorian and rescue her? But, like, it has to be something good. Because they know that Maeve's not stupid. And that she'll expect them. So they need to plan for a different type of lure. We go to Manon's point of view now. Ugh. So this is where I got stuck. So last week I mentioned that I was getting stuck. And this is where. Because I just feel like there's a lot of Dorian and Manon. And I just want to be like, ugh.
Yeah.
So they did find a host of Crocan witches, just like the spider Serene told them. And they do approach the witches without weapons because they're trying to be like, don't kill us on sight. So one of the Crochans come forward and speak for the lot of them. They immediately know who Manon is. And they are trying to find out the validity of the rumors that she is no longer paired with her grandmother. She's no longer affiliated with her grandmother. So Dorian actually, like, steps forward and says, like, yep, everything that you've heard is true. She's not with her grandmother anymore. I'm the king, by the way, of Aelin. So, like, you can trust what I say. And I'm like, oh, come on. Come on. So all the Crochans are obviously super on guard because, like, Iron Teeth witches kill them. Like, that is their sole purpose. This is they go out and hunt down Crocan witches. So they're not backing down. Not that they're not backing down. They're just not relaxing. And then, I guess Manon just says, like, don't worry. The wyverns won't hurt you. But they're all like, we can't stand down without an order from her. So we don't know who her is. And then and then we switch to Dorian's point of view. So her name is Glennis, And I will say, it's very convenient that they happened upon this specific band of Crocan witches.
100%.
Like, what is that about? Is that intentional?
Yeah.
Or do you think that is, do you think it's plot driven? They just happen to come, like...
Yeah. It must be. It has to be plot, because nobody else would allow them to stay. Like, she has a soft spot for her.
Yeah. She definitely does. Anyway, so the woman, her, is named Glennis. So Glennis, I guess, approaches them. They say, like, sort of what's on the go. And Glennis, like, just lets them know right off the bat that her family have served the Crocan royals for years. And asks if Rhiannon helped her find them. So, if you forgot, Rhiannon is the Crocan that Manon killed in book 2, right?
Definitely wasn't 2, because we didn't have witches in 2. 3.
I would say
it was
3.
Either Heir of Fire or Queen of Shadows.
I think it was 3.
Yeah.
Because it was I feel like it was one of the first things that we saw from Manon.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And then she wore her cloak for ages and ages and ages.
Up until Empire of Storms.
Yeah. So, I guess Glennis is asking, like, what do you know about Rhiannon? Did she help you find us? And Manon's like, I do know who Rhiannon is. Which don't remember. How does she know Rhiannon is Rhiannon?
Because her grandmother taunted her with it.
Okay.
She was like, you're a Crocan queen.
Right.
You killed your sister.
Right.
Ah.
Okay. So she does know that Rhiannon is her sister.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she just says that Rhiannon didn't survive the ferrying gap. She does not say that she killed her.
I murdered her.
P.S.
But do you think they can tell? Because...
No.
Like, everyone can tell that Aelin killed an Iron Tooth. And they just assume that it's Baba Yellowlegs. Because... Or she tells them, maybe. I don't know.
Weird. Yeah, I don't know. Because I don't know why that is.
I'm not sure.
It's because she can smell her?
Maybe. Maybe they can just all tell that she killed her.
I'm sure that that's out there. Like, I'm sure that's information.
Yeah.
According to Google, the witches know that Aelin killed a witch through a combination of factors, primarily related to her actions and consequences. What? What? Oh my god.
I think she shows them the scar on her neck.
No, can I just read to you these things?
You can read me whatever you want.
So Google has decided to say that her actions and consequences are 1. The word mark. Aelin uses her word mark to manipulate objects, including the mask and gauntlets that are associated with Rowan's witch blood.
What? This is clearly the AI. This is clearly the AI overview, is it?
Yes.
God.
This action reveals the presence of witch blood and potentially the presence of a witch's death. Oh, God. Okay, number 2. Direct witness.
There was no witness.
Wait. Aelin's actions in saving Manon after a confrontation also reveal she was involved in a situation where a witch could have died. Manon's debt to Aelin and her subsequent actions reinforce this connection.
Nope.
And 3. The nature of word. Word itself.
Word W-O-R-D or W-Y-R-D?
W-Y-R-D.
Okay.
Word itself is a manifestation of magic and fate, which can reveal or be influenced by events related to witches and their deaths.
What?
These factors, combined with the knowledge of witch magic and the actions of those involved, allows the witches to deduce that Aelin was involved in the death of a witch.
Guys, we need to get rid of this AI overview bullshit.
It's so funny.
What?
Oh, God. I'm sorry. I know that was a little bit of a deviation, but...
No, it's fair. I just am so confused.
Me too. It just didn't clear anything up at all. So, anyway, back to Manon. So, Manon admits that, like, she does know Rhiannon, like I said. And then Glennis admits that she was Rhiannon's great-grandmother, and therefore also Manon's.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, wah-wah.
I get so confused, and I know it's because there's two sides to marriages. Two sides of families.
Yeah.
But I get so confused about, like, Gladys isn't royal at all.
Yeah.
She's on the other side. I guess I'm not confused, but... Because I just said it.
Yeah, yes. Yes, I see what you mean.
But, no, I am confused. I'm going to say it again.
Also confused.
Because it's her... Gladys's...
Glennis. Her mother took the baby out of the witch kingdom. So I don't understand how Glennis is involved at all.
But was her son Manon's father?
We are going to hear a little bit about it.
Yeah, tell me more, because I'm confused.
Yeah, we'll get a little bit into it. So Glennis, we get into Manon's point of view. Glennis shows them around camp and lead her to her tent. And Dorian wants to know, like, I guess he's asking Manon, like, what his place is in all of this. Like, does she want him to, like, be a member of the negotiations? Is he sitting in as, like, a visiting royal or dignitary? Is he just supposed to keep his mouth shut? Like, what is his role? But Manon is, I guess, reeling from hearing that this woman is her great-grandmother, and is like, I don't want to tell you what to do. So she just annoys him. So she doesn't tell him. So they start to tease each other, which sort of feels like their thing. Like, it's how they flirt with each other.
Yeah.
Is to tease and get on each other's nerves. And Dorian just tells her that this particular group of people don't seem to be won over by brutality. So she needs to, like, show them something else if she wants to win their loyalty. So, like, she's like, oh, shit. But then he's like, also, FYI, I've been tunneling into my magic for days, so I can blow them all to smithereens if you need me to. So it's just sort of like, thank you for that, Dorian. Like, it's just fun, because he's like, don't be brutal with them, but also, I can be brutal if you need me to.
I will kill them all for you.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like, I kind of wish that we got them getting to another camp where it was like, not somebody who was gonna talk to her, and then he just like killed them all and they had to go find another one.
Yeah. So then there's all of a sudden this like warning alarm, and I don't know how, but Manon's like, the Iron Teeth have found us. And I just don't really understand how anyone else is like, oh my god, how did you know that?
Yeah.
So then we go to Dorian's point of view again. So apparently it's 2 covens of yellow teeth. So that's 26 witches. And Manon and the 13, which I don't like this saying, Manon and the 13, because is she not included in the 13?
She is.
So I don't...
Because they're an odd number.
So I don't like that it's like Manon and the 13. No.
Yeah.
It's Manon's a part of the 13. So like...
That's a good point.
Manon and the 12.
Yeah.
But they call themselves the 13. Which I also...
But she also calls herself the 13.
I don't like that also, because every coven is 13, so they would all be called the 13.
Yes.
So how does that make you special?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But nobody else calls themselves the 13. They're
Why?
just a 13.
Why?
I bet Iskra calls herself the 13.
Yeah, I bet you she does. Because why wouldn't you want to be the like, imagine calling yourself the something.
Yeah.
It'd be, like, amazing. So, again, we go back. We're in Dorian's point of view. So there's 26 yellow teeth. No, yellow legs. Iron teeth.
Yes.
Why did I say yellow teeth? Anyway, there's 26 iron teeth. And Manon and the 12 get in the air. And the Crochan witches, like, they're trained, but not that well trained.
Yeah.
So they're not doing great, especially considering they're on their little dinky brooms in comparison to, like, the wyvern.
Yeah.
So Manon just, like, yells at them in this as she's getting on Abraxas, and she's like, get in formation, low to the ground, and be our support. And then Glennis is on the ground, and she's like, listen to her! So they all listen, and they follow Manon's command, and they all fight, indicating that eventually they're gonna do it for real.
Yeah.
So a couple of wyverns, like, crash into camp, and Manon is, like, fighting them and chopping off a rider's head, and the head lands close to Dorian, who is fighting, like, against the wyverns with Glennis, and he starts to have flashbacks then to Sorsha because of the head.
Some PTSD.
Yes, he's having lots of it.
Yeah.
So Manon is, like, calling for him because there's a wyvern approaching him and, like, gonna snap him and, like, eat him. But, like, Dorian's, like, lost in this, like, memory of Sorsha, and he doesn't hear Manon. But just as the wyvern is about to, like, eat him, he lets his magic loose and turns his body into solid flame. So, like, the wyvern actually had his jaws, like, closing around him, and he melted them.
I kind of love it.
I do too. It's pretty cool. Like, pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
So the fighting ends, and Manon wants to send out her shadows to make sure there's no more Iron Teeth coming. So the girl from the very beginning who sort of spoke for the coven thinks that, like, this is Manon's fault and that she led them here, the Iron Teeth witches.
Yeah.
And Glennis actually makes Manon swear that she had nothing to do with it. I know. And then Glennis, like, I guess Manon swears. She's like, I didn't have anything to do with it. So Glennis is like, okay, I trust you. And
I believe you.
Yeah. And then she tells the girl Bronwyn, who's the one from, like, that we sort of heard about in the beginning, that, like, this was not her fault. So they agree to talk later. So Dorian is shocked because he knows that Manon lied. Like, she did lead the Iron Teeth there. And sort of like we're insinuating at this point that strategy was the best way to show that she is on the Crochans' side to fight with them. So, then we go back to fucking Manon. Sorry, I keep thinking Manon because there's this guy on social media. You definitely know who it is. He's got curly hair, and he does, like, Akatar in 1 minute.
Yeah.
And, like, Akamoth in 1 minute.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry I don't remember his name. But, he came out with a video yesterday, actually. And to be fair, I don't know if he came out with it yesterday or I just got it yesterday. But he just said, like, I will literally die on the hill of, like, if somebody tells me how to properly pronounce Manon's name one more time, I'm gonna, like, fuck everybody up or something like that. And he he calls her Manon.
Yeah.
So, for some reason now it's stuck in my head, like, that video, and calling her Manon. Yeah. He's like, fuck the French. And I'm like, oh dear God. So, like, a part of me keeps saying Manon, but then another part is like, Manon. Because when I first started this book, I called her Manon.
Yeah.
Probably rewind to one of our episodes that first discussed Throne of Glass. I definitely called her Manon.
Yeah.
So.
It's funny, though.
Now I keep thinking in my head, this guy, and then, anyway. So. Go back to Manon's point of view. But, like, do you understand now? Like, we've switched, like, 4 times. Like,
but just between 2 people.
I'm done with Manon and Dorian.
Yeah.
So, Manon is sort of admitting in her head that she did purposefully call the Iron Teeth witches near her so that she could fight with the Crochans. So she thinks that, like, only 8 Crochans were lost, but she would take the responsibility and learn their names and take them to her grave. And she also felt bad for sacrificing all those Iron Teeth.
Yeah.
But she knew that she didn't have the time to woo the Crochans. Like, she had to show that she was loyal in battle. Which, like, valid point. She did.
Yeah.
But
it's a morally gray move.
100%. So, she then knew that Dorian knew that she lied. So, like, she knows that Dorian is in on it and that they're gonna have to talk about it. But for now, they just dispose of the Iron Teeth bodies and they meet Glennis at her hearth, aka at her fire.
Yeah.
So, Glennis gives her some food, and this is sort of where we get a little bit more about Glennis's heritage, and therefore Manon's.
Yeah.
So she gives her some food, and she essentially says, like, it's been 500 years since Iron Teeth and Crochans sat and had a meal together. So, like, just this simple act of giving her, like, I think it was literally just a stew, is a huge, significant, like, what do you call it? It's a huge
step?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I don't really know. But I also, I don't understand how that's true. Because I just looked it up, and Manon is, like, 116 or something.
Right. So I guess...
Wouldn't her parents have sat at a meal together?
Well, I guess maybe excluding them?
Yeah.
So she tells Manon that she was her father's grandmother and that she gave birth to Manon's grandfather, who mated a Crochan queen before that queen died in childbirth, giving birth to Manon's father. So, okay, so she is the great-grandmother, not on the royal side.
Yes.
So that's sort of what we were discussing earlier. So, she gave birth to a boy, and that boy mated the Crochan queen.
Yes.
And then that Crochan queen died, giving birth to Manon's dad.
Father. Okay, that makes more sense. I missed the middle step.
Yeah.
And assumed, yeah. Okay.
So then we get into that, like, their hardship is something that they share with the Fae. Because it's on purpose from the gods to keep a balance and not flood the world with too many immortals. Which is what we talked about last week.
Yeah, which is why I'm confused of why Yrene has magic, but doesn't have any
issues conceiving.
But I guess maybe it's because she's not immortal. I assume she's not immortal. Anyway, not a big deal, but...
I wonder. So they, according to AI...
which we know is shit.
However, So it says that it is possible that her connection to Silba may provide her with a unique advantage in conceiving. And it also says additionally, her magical link to Chaol, which was established when she prayed for his healing, could also contribute to her fertility. Which I do kind of believe, actually.
Yes.
I know, but we're gonna go for it. So like, I guess Manon is, like, looking around at the fact that there are no men. Even though, like, Glennis is telling her that I had a son, he had a son, and she's like, what sons? There's no sons around here, she's thinking.
Yeah.
And Glennis just tells her, like, the men stay safe at home. And I just love it. I love that sentiment. That's, oh, we gotta tuck the men away at home. Because
they're the minority.
Well, because they don't have magic, and the women do. So they are not powerful, which I just love. So the Crochans, like, Manon thinks that they've always given birth to more boys than the Iron Teeth. Because apparently, from what we've read so far, the Iron Teeth, the Yellow Legs, the Blue Bloods don't give birth to any boys.
Yeah.
Right?
Hasn't seemed like it.
But apparently, seems like the Crochans actually do give birth to some boys.
Well, to have two lines of, like, she had a son who had a son.
Yeah.
That seems
like
a lot.
Yeah. So when Manon's mom disappeared with Manon, her dad, whose name is Tristan, didn't know whether they were alive or dead, and since he was the only surviving bloodline of the Crochan royal line, he mated with someone else to do his duty. So essentially he remarried because he knew he had to have more kids to ensure his line.
Yeah.
So Dorian asked about the rumor that there are no Crochans left, because that is a rumor that exists in the world. And Glennis tells them, like, that story was sort of fabricated to keep them safe. And she explains that when Rhiannon, the Crochan queen, like the original Crochan queen, not Manon's sister, when her daughter was born, it was actually during the siege on the Witch City by the, what do you call them? The Crochans are the Crochans, but the other three, do they have one name?
The Iron Teeth?
No, like the Iron Teeth, the Yellow Legs, and the Blue Bloods. Do they, all three of them, have a name? Together to, like, signify their one
Yeah,
group?
the three of them together are the Iron Teeth, because it's the Blue Bloods, the Yellow Legs, and the...
Iron Teeth.
No, is it?
Yes.
I thought there was another name for them.
No. Well, that's what I'm asking them.
No, I thought that there was three names and they're all just Iron Teeth.
Oh. Blackbeaks.
Yeah.
Okay, they're all Iron Teeth. You're right.
Yes.
Okay, so my bad.
Okay.
So
they didn't remind us in this book.
No, they have not yet reminded. So essentially, the Rhiannon, the original Crochan queen, had a baby during the siege on the Witch City by the Iron Teeth witches, and she had them announce that the baby was stillborn, but it wasn't. Instead, she actually had her BFF smuggle the baby out of the city, and the bestie was actually Glennis's mom. So Glennis's mom smuggled the Crochan princess out.
Yeah. And
Glennis informs Manon that because of that, she has some cousins. And that Bronwyn, the girl that introduced them and sort of was the first one to speak to them, is also Glennis's great-granddaughter on the other side, and that her and Rhiannon were super close. So, like, another reason...
Which is great.
Yeah, well, it's just another reason why Manon can't connect with Bronwyn on any level, and, like, can't tell her anything. So, Dorian just says, like, we have a reason for being here, and Glennis guesses what it is and says, like, it's not possible to summon all the Crochans. And Dorian just asks, like, what if their queen summoned them? But for some reason, Bronwyn is there at that. Like, I don't know if she showed up or if she was sitting there the whole time. I don't know. Yeah. But she just gets pissed at that and tells Manon to her face, she will never be their queen no matter what her blood says. And, like, yep. Manon does try and convince them and tries to be like, everyone's not gonna care when he comes for your crops or your families or whatever. Like, he doesn't give a shit. But they're all like, we don't care, we don't like you.
Yeah.
They don't they don't say that, but that's my thought.
Yeah, that's fair.
So then we go to Dorian's point of view, and again, like, more, I feel like we've been talking about Manon and Dorian for a bajillion years. I'm just done.
Yeah, that's fair.
So he goes to find Cyrene then, or Serene, who's the spider that he has in his power. And he asks her about shifting and where it comes from. And she explains that when magic came back after the glass tower fell, she had a little seed, a little kernel of power within her, and that's where the shifting comes from first. But essentially, if she wants to be something, she just wills it into being. So she's just like, you know, you want to learn how to shift, just think about it and do it. But then, thanks. Yeah, I know, it's very much like this advice sucks.
Yeah.
But then she explains that he does need the image in his mind. Like, it needs to be something, for the most part, that he's seen before and something he can't make up. And he does try and change his eye color to brown by thinking of Chaol's eyes. And the spider just tells him he thinks too much. Because he's thinking of, like, Chaol's eye color and the brown in his eyes. But then he's thinking of whether Chaol managed to convince the Kagan to send aid. So, like, his brain just wanders.
Yeah.
So,
just funny.
Yeah. So Dorian, I guess, because he can't really figure it out very well, he uses magic to brush up against Serene. And then he goes inside of her to learn her magic. Not in a sexual way.
Fair.
Just in a normal way. You know, that way.
You know, that normal.
That normal way that you repulse magic and that you invade other people using your magic.
Yeah.
Not like that. So, he, like, uses his magic to get inside of her head, I think. And he is immediately repulsed by how vile it is inside of her. And now he understands, just from being inside of her, that she's a Valg. Which we knew from Tower of Dawn, but he doesn't know that yet.
Yeah.
So he sort of studies her little seed of magic that she stole from Falcon, the shapeshifter / Lysandra's uncle. And as he's, like, studying it, he talks with her, and he's like, I don't understand why you're so happy to give up the revenge you sought, because she was very, like, hell-bent on revenge in the first little bit, but now she's like, yeah, it's fine. But she reassures him that she hasn't given it up. And then just tells him that she could make a bargain to ensure he lives in the end. So he knows that, like, she's making deals with Aelin.
Yeah. Or that's what he assumes, because
it's logical enough.
Yeah, but it's just because he doesn't know that Maeve is Valg.
Yeah. So he just feels guilty because the Valg steal all that is good and joyful, and his father let them flourish. So he's like, damn it, after examining like that seed that Serene has, he uses his invisible hands and snaps Serene's neck, and then turns her body to ash just so that there's nothing left. So it was a very swift, quick, decisive kill.
Yeah. After being like, we can't kill her. We should listen to her. And then it's just like, and now she's gone.
Yeah. So later that night, Dorian and Manon are getting ready to go to sleep in their shared tent. But Manon, like, just walked into the tent after him, and it was like, there's 13 of us. I usually always share. And he's like, well, too bad. And she knows that he killed the spider, even though he hasn't said anything. Like, he didn't kill her and then automatically go around being like, I killed Yrene.
Yeah.
So, she knows that he killed the spider, but he sort of doesn't really want to talk about it. But, like, she doesn't judge him for it at all. And, like, he thinks that, or actually, she thinks that he's gonna be, like, self-righteous about her leaving the Iron Teeth here, but he's not.
Yeah, he understands.
Yeah, he does. He understands that this is a war and there are sacrifices. So, like, she really thought that he would be pissed that she went out on her own and led the Iron Teeth witches to the Crochans.
Yeah.
But he's like, no, there are sacrifices to be made in war. So Manon then asks him how he would play her role with the Crochans, because he's really used to court intrigue and all that stuff, and she is way out of her depth. So she's just asking, like, what do I do? Like, with the witches, how do I get them to fight for us? And he tells her that her issue is that she needs them more than they need her. And that all she really has to bargain with is her heritage. And from what Bronwyn said, they've already rejected that. Like, she can't even really bargain for peace because she doesn't speak for the Blackbeaks anymore. So, like, realistically, there's nothing she can do.
Yeah.
So, but I guess Dorian just says, like, what you have to do is find the thing that the person needs most and then use it to their advantage. So then he gives the Aelin and the Mycenians as an example and says that Aelin found what the Mycenians needed most, aka for the sea dragon to reappear, for them to get into a fight, and the sea dragon appeared, therefore they are now her allies to fight.
Yeah, and she sacrificed a shit ton of people when she did that.
She did.
And it's funny, it's because you see the growth in Dorian, that when he noticed that that's what she did, he was like, I can't believe Aelin did that, but I guess that's what you need to do. And now Manon is doing it. He's like, yeah, I get it completely.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh. Anyway, so then they talk a little bit about his father, because I guess they're discussing, they're discussing how,
politics.
Yeah, like politics and stuff. Anyway, and it just brings
whatever.
up his dad, and
Yeah.
he just mentions that, like, he's still pissed at his dad, like he hasn't forgiven him. So then they just stop talking and have sex a couple times. It doesn't describe it, so it's not hot.
Yeah. Well, I think this series really is more YA. I think it is more common to not describe it in this one.
We go to Manon's point of view, and the next morning she goes to Glennis's tent and just asks, like, what would it take to convince the Crochans to join the war? And Glennis is like, oh, the Crochen Queen has to light the flame of war. And it's like, oh, that sounds easy, just the flame of war.
She's the Crochen Queen, she can do it.
Yeah. And she says that, like, essentially every Crochen family has a hearth. I don't know what a hearth is. In theory, I know what it is, but I don't actually know what it is. Like, when you say hearth, I think a fireplace.
Yeah.
But you can't take a fireplace from camp to camp. Unless it's just, like, there.
A symbolic hearth? Or is it, like, in each camp, each family member has one. Not each family member. Each family has one in this camp.
Yeah, no, it says every Crochan family has a hearth that travels from camp to camp, and the flame in the hearth never extinguishes. So, like, they take it on their brooms when they travel? I think of the Elemental movie, and how they have that, like, the fire in their room that she's, like, trying really hard to save at the end.
I don't know if I know that movie.
Oh.
Sorry.
It was really good. A fire spirit and a water spirit fall in love. And she has to, like, live up to her family expectations being an immigrant child. And, like, her dad doesn't want her to love water. But she does.
Got it.
It's a beautiful message about, like, family expectations and the immigrant story. And, yeah, it's a lovely cartoon. But they have, like, a big, in their house, they have a room, and there's, like, a pedestal, like, almost like a big cup, like a standing one. It's huge. And there's a fire that's always going in it. And then if they want to take it somewhere, they get a little lantern, and they scoop some of the fire up, and they bring it around.
Gotcha.
So, that's where my head is, but I don't know if that's correct. Anyway.
Unsure.
So, the reason why these women all have these witches all have this flame is because it dates back to Brennan Galathinius gifting Rhiannon, the first Crochan queen, a spark of everlasting flame. And when Rhiannon, like, sacrificed herself for her people to get them out when the Iron Teeth witches were attacking her, they, in addition to smuggling out the baby that she said was stillborn, was actually alive, they also smuggled out a bit of that flame. So, I guess they've shared it around so that they all have some of it. So,
you'd think that, well, I guess I would think that the fact that they put so much, like, faith, so much of their life, so much of their culture into a flame that was given to them by Brennan, they would be like, yeah, we'll fight for Aelin.
Yeah.
Why do we have to convince them?
You would think that. But I guess in their brain it's not Brannon that's important, it's Rhiannon.
Yeah.
Maybe?
I guess, yeah.
Anyway, so the Crochan Queen needs to take the flame from her hearth and deliver it to every other Crochan hearth to summon them to war. Which, in my brain, is sort of like, so you gotta just bring your fire to someone who already has one? Like, anyway, besides the point. It's fine.
It's not our biggest worry, and not the thing we care the most to figure out.
No. But, so Manon's like, oh, all I have to do is deliver some flame around?
I can do
and
that.
Glennis is like, yeah, she is. She's like, yeah. Like, she's like, yeah, I can do that. That's fine. And Glennis is like, yeah, except they need to think of you as the queen first.
Which
right
is like...
now they don't.
Not what you said. You just said the Crochan Queen had to do it. You didn't have to say that they had to believe in me.
Yeah. And Glennis also tells Manon that they have heard from their southern hearths that a threat has come to Eelway, so they're gonna go help.
Yeah.
Then we switch over to Aedion's point of view, and I hate it. So, they just traveled real far to, right after fighting in a battle, and, like, they're all tired.
Of course.
And Darrow was insistent on them going to meet him immediately. And he is waiting for them when the army finally arrives. And they had been marching for a full day in the snow and the wind, and they're all tired. And cold. And Darrow wants to discuss the battle, but Aedion just tells him that his men need shelter, so it'll have to wait.
Yeah.
And Darrow just tells him that he needs to gather the other lords in the morning for a meeting at dawn. And Aedion thinks that, he'll be at the meeting, and he's bringing Aelin, a.k.a. Lysandra. So, next morning, we're in Lysandra's point of view. She arrives as Aelin and enters the tent. Darrow is, of course, a dick.
Imagine.
And he's like, I know, and he's like, I don't remember inviting you. Blech. But Aedion's like, I made her a member of the Bane, since she's fighting as under the Bane, so she's my second in command. And so I guess they're talking about strategy on where they should be. And Darrow wants to put them essentially right in front of Orinth, thinking that Orinth's walls can withstand a siege, and then the army can sort of protect them, but also have a fallback if needed. I don't know if he's thinking that. I'm thinking that.
Is this not just Lord of the Rings? Like,
yes.
we were saying this earlier. Everybody's just like...
Two towers.
Everyone's just like, we are Helm's Deep. And nothing will go wrong. And it's like, have you watched the movie or read the books? Because everything goes wrong. If the elves didn't come, if Aragorn wasn't there, if Gandalf didn't come on the 5th day looking to the east, you'd all be fucked.
Yeah.
Anyway.
True story. So, the issue is that Darrow's like, Orinth's walls can withstand a siege, but Ren's like, Orinth's walls won't withstand the witch towers they built and are bringing with them. However, the problem is, the information on the witch towers comes from Manon, and Darrow doesn't trust Manon. So he thinks, like, how do you know this information is valid? It could be planted. Aedion, what?
I was just wondering, in Queen of Shadows, I believe it is?
Yes.
When, oh, no, never mind. Lysandra's taken in that book, and then they save her, and that's when Manon finds out about the witch towers. No one else hears, like, sees the specifics of the witch towers other than her.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, okay. Because I was like, didn't other people see it? But no. Yeah. Sorry. Misremembering. But also, what an asshole of being like, I don't believe those are real because I haven't seen them with my own 2 eyes.
Yeah.
And you're like, there's magic in this world. I don't know if you know this, but magic is real. Anything can be real.
True story. So Darrow's plan. Stay close to Orinth. Aedion, however, wants to go to the Terrasen border. Obviously, Lysandralin agrees.
Amazing. I loved it. Good job.
Thank you. And Darrow makes a dig at the point that Aelin hasn't used her fire yet.
It's almost like he knows, but he's too stupid to know.
So, after arguing both plans, they vote. There are 6 lords of Terrasen, and 4 of them are old farty men, and vote for the army to go to Orinth, because of course they do. It's Darrow and friends. And obviously, so this is a meeting of, like, all the allies as well. Mm-hmm. So, Galen, Ashriver is there. No, Galen Whitethorn is there. No,
Ash. I'm pretty sure it's Galen Ash.
Galen Ashriver. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So Galen Ashriver is there. Ansel Briar. You have, Ansel of Briarcliff. Yeah.
In your notes, you do have Briar of Anselcliff, though.
I know.
I love it. It's good.
It must have been a sleepy day.
That's fine.
the Whitethorn cousins are there. The silent assassin head guy is there that we don't know what his name is right now.
But he's the one that was, like, in love with Selena.
Yes.
I don't remember his name, though.
It's sort of sad. Anyway, so he just dismisses them all, and because they all seem to be, like, I guess, Darrow knows that they're there for Aelin.
Yeah.
Right? So she agrees with Aedion's plan, and Darrow's like, oh, well, you know, if this isn't what you want to do, you guys are all free to go. Like, he says he doesn't want to hold them to anything if they disagree with their strategy. But the allies are like, well, we'd be pretty shitty allies if we just left.
Yeah.
So they all pledge to stay. So Knox from earlier, the guy who was the messenger boy for Darrow, he comes in and he sees Aelin. And, like, he shows surprise at seeing her. And he says there is a messenger from Eldris who has come. And so this messenger from Eldris enters into the tent and says that Erewhon sends his regards, and then sends a blast of black wind right at Lysandraelin. Lysandra ducks, but gets hit in the arm by this wind, and I think she's bleeding.
Yeah.
And obviously all of her allies defend her, but of course the lords that suck, that vote against her, are all hiding behind a table.
Of course.
They pin this messenger guy who ends up being like a Valg soldier or something, and he looks at her and he smells the blood coming from her arm, and he mouths the word shifter. So, like, he doesn't say it out loud, he doesn't say it so anyone can hear. Really only Lysandraelin can hear.
Mm-hmm.
So she orders him killed, because she doesn't want him obviously telling the secret.
Yeah.
Afterwards, they all exit the tent, and Knox is sort of reeling because he's apologizing, I guess, for letting the guy in, but he's like, he didn't have a ring on, so I thought it was okay. And Aedion just reveals that he didn't need one. Dun dun dun! And I'm just thinking, like, how does Aedion know that?
Yeah. What do you mean?
Yeah. We don't know.
But I guess, was Aedion there in Empire of Storms when the inside of that guy was, it was in the temple?
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe that's what it means.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe we've figured it out. Yeah, okay, fine.
So we go to Aedion's point of view again, and they all walk back to his tent to talk, and Lysandra's freaking out because this guy figured out she wasn't Aelin, and, like, knows what she is, and I guess they're worried that he, like, mind-linked to Erewhon, or, like, that Erewhon had been inside of him, possessing him, and sort of, like, knows.
Yeah.
So they're worried that, like, Erewhon knows their secret. And they're worried about what he's gonna do. So I guess they're talking, and they're talking about how, like, you know, you shouldn't go to Orinth. And Lysandra's like, yeah, going to Orinth will be a bloodbath. We shouldn't go there. And Aedion just says, yeah, well, we're not going to Orinth. So it turns out that most of the armies there, the Bane, Ren's men, Sol and Ravi's men, and all the other allies are loyal to Aelin, not Terrasen and Darrow.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a plan afoot.
Of course.
So as Lysandraelin was walking back to her tent, Knox intercepts her and admits that he knows she isn't Aelin.
Which is, I love this.
Yeah.
It was one of my favorite parts of, I think, reading this book for the first time. Because I was like, I loved Nox in the first book. He owes Aelin Celaena so much that he can't be an asshole. He can't tell on her. So him finding out, I wasn't worried about. And then I was like, oh, I'm so excited she has someone other than Aedion who's being an absolute dick. And I was like, maybe she'll have a little ally in her life. Not that she really did, but, you know, I was happy about it.
Yeah, I also really like this bit, and I thought that, like, it is nice that she has a little friend, and, like, maybe, like, I've read the book, but, like, I don't know, I think it would be nice if she sort of maybe moved on a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
Well, mostly because I don't think Aedion's actions are redeemable. But
yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he just says, like, he actually knows Aelin from competing in the competition at the Glass Castle during the first book. And he says, at the time, so we're getting a little bit more into it, and I actually would, because whenever I read them, I always forget this part.
100% agree.
So Nox says that he was actually working at the time as a spy for Minister Jovel and the rebels in Terrasen? Or in Adelin. Like, I don't know who these people, Minister Jovel is. I don't know what country he's from.
He's part of Terrasen, I'm pretty sure. Like, he was working as a spy against Adelin.
Yes, I did know that. I just didn't know if it was, like, a country against Adelin or if it was rebels within Adelin.
Oh, wait. If we looked back at Throne of Glass, is there a Jovel that... Moving slow. Site can't be reached.
Oh.
Google can't be reached.
Oh.
I broke the Google.
Anyway, so he was working as a spy for Minister Jovel and the rebels, and then he tells Lysandrielin that he owed Celaena his life. And that he was loyal to her and the Galathinius family, not Darrow. So he might be working for Darrow, but he's loyal to Aelin's family. And then he tells her he is at her service. And she asks, like, does that make him a traitor? And he says, probably. But then she's like, I have a job for you. And she tells him something. So then later on, we get that night, Nox Owen laced the wine he served to Darrow and crew, sending them into a dreamless sleep. They also made sure that the men in the army, or in battle, or whatever, that were loyal to Darrow and crew, made sure they all got some sleepy wine. So the next morning, when they all wake up, the army and the camp is all gone. Dun dun dun!
What? So, now we go to Yrene's point of view. And her and Chaol land at Westfall Keep in Anielle on a rook. So we're assuming one of them knows how to ride a rook.
I mean, I put my money on.
Maybe, yeah. Well, yeah, maybe she actually did learn while she was there. So anyway, they show up there, and it's like a super cold, damp fortress, and it's awful, and guards meet them with weapons drawn, and Chaol's just like, hi, it's me, I'm here to see my dad. And Yrene thinks she's not excited to see Chaol's father because of the memory of him throwing Chaol down the stairs when he was a child, which is completely fair.
Yeah.
And she has to remind herself that they're actually there to warn him about this battle for the people of Anielle, not for his father.
Yeah.
So they walk to meet him, and KoA tells his father, tells her that his father doesn't spend any money on improvements in the castle, so it's like a super sad looking place, but he's like, it is a really rich kingdom. Not kingdom. It is a really rich lorddom, castle, whatever it's called. He just doesn't actually spend the money. And then they get to, I guess, a dining room. And his father calls them to enter, but then just stays seated, drinking and eating, in a room at a table by himself. And KoA walks in, and she's just like, where's his mother and his brother? They're nowhere to be seen.
Yikes.
And then we pop over to KoA's point of view. And this is one of those chapters where we, one chapter bounce back and forth between the same people, and it kind of makes it feel longer.
Yes.
And when I read it originally, I don't think it felt this long, but when you do it this way, it does. But anyway, we go to KoA's point of view, and he feels ashamed of the keep and bringing Yrene here, and it's so bleak, and his father's, not standing up to meet them, and he thinks how rude that is, and he's just pissed. Immediately, and I'm like, this is a great... that's a great feeling to go in to a meeting with somebody. But his father says he's walking, because last he heard he couldn't move a toe. And KoA says it's thanks to this woman, his wife, Lady Yrene Towers Westfall. And his father says Towers isn't a noble name that I've ever heard of.
The dick.
He's 100%. And she actually pipes up and says its lineage is no less proud or worthy. And he says she speaks better than the assassin who turned out to be the Queen of Terrasen. And then he says, what a prize KoA might have had if he had kept her. I'm like, no wonder if KoA's a piece of shit. He grew up with this guy as a father, and then went to the king, who was Valg. What could we expect from him?
I don't know.
But KoA says Yrene is the finest healer of her generation, and her worth is greater than a crown. And I'm like, she's also a descendant of a god. Isn't that what we found out in Tower of Dawn? She's a descendant of Silba, basically?
Something like that.
Yeah. Well, it's called the Torre Chesme because of the towers in the name, and anyway. So, yeah. He says that she's amazing, basically, and then she tells him he doesn't need to prove her worth to his father. She knows how much she's worth. Which I love.
Yeah. Slay girl.
Exactly. And then his father asks if he's here to fulfill his oath, and KoA says that his promise is broken, and that is from literally the second book, Crown of Midnight, I'm pretty sure, where he promised to come back and be the Lord if his father sent Aelin to go assassinate Galen Ashriver.
Yes, yeah.
Which is just funny now, because a wild where everybody's gone and come from. But KoA says he's sorry, but they've come to warn him, and his father says that, he already knows about the shit in Morath, and basically he sent his wife and son away already. But KoA says then that Morath has 10,000 on their way here to sack the city. And his father asks if KoA's sure, and KoA says that he sailed with an army from the Coggin, and their scouts found out, and that they have Rukin on the way, and the soldiers will take at least a week to get here, and his father needs to rally
the troops.
Rally the troops. But he says they don't have forces. So Chaol's like, well, then you should evacuate. And he's like, I'm the lord here. Because, of course, it's a fucking power struggle. And you're like, why? Can you not just... Ugh. But no.
But also, didn't he want his son to take over for him? So why is he, like, entering into this power struggle at this point?
Because he can. I don't know. It's sickening. And then he says, Chaol turned his back on this, I guess, city twice. And Chaol says that he has Taryn, but he says, and Taryn is his brother and the other child in this family. But his dad says that Taryn is a scholar, and that's why he sent him away. And then he asks if Chaol is finally here to bleed for Anielle. And Yrene is just like, don't talk to him like that. And I appreciate it, but I'm also like, I don't know. It's just a bit awkward, I guess. But then she says...
Like, I just find it really funny that he's so willing. Like, somebody who is so focused on, like, lineage and propriety and all these things, and yet he's so willing to just throw it all out the window. Like, the second he sees his child.
Yeah. Yeah, it's odd. But so, yeah, Irene's like, don't talk to him like that, and then she says that she's the heir apparent to the healer on high at the Torre Chesme, and he did what no one else has done and formed an alliance with the Coggin, and if this city survives, it'll be because of Chaol, not because of his father. Whose name I completely forget throughout all of this. I don't think we...
Yeah, but that's fine.
Yeah. I'm just like, Chaol's dad, Chaol's father. This is this. So Chaol then tells him to prepare, or the lake will run with blood. And his father says he knows the history, because I guess that has already happened. And Chaol asks if that's why he didn't bow to Erewhon. And his dad says that, yes, and he also didn't bow to the king before him. And Chaol asks if he knew that the king was Valg. And he says he didn't, but he just knew his army was abnormal. So, like, we're trying to... I don't know what we're trying to do. Are we trying to make him seem better? Or are we trying to just make him seem, like, maybe a bit smart?
Seems like they're trying to initially just make him slightly better.
Yeah, I don't really understand the aim here. Like, is it to make him seem wary? I don't know. Anyway, doesn't really matter. He figured it out. But then Chaol asks him to call for aid. And I'm not gonna lie, this does 100% remind me of Lord of the Rings. And I know...
Call for aid. No one will answer. Gondor will answer. Gondor. Where was Gondor when the West Wall fell?
But it's...
I don't know the rest.
That's fine. It is very similar to that. But...
Yeah.
Because he's like, call for aid to the wild men of the Fangs. And he's like, I'd rather die. And Yrene says she hopes his people agree. And he says, and this is where, like... I don't love this. It's one of the parts of the book that I know I take offense to because of how much I love Aelin. But Chaol's dad says that he likes Yrene more than the assassin queen, and that burying the rabble will breed backbone into their bloodline. And I'm like, this is like so many backhanded bullshit.
It's like a compliment, but disguised very poorly as a terrible insult.
Yeah. Well, calling her rabble is awful. But I'm also like, yes. He likes her more than the assassin queen, who was completely under the toe of the king at the time. Like, she couldn't talk to him how she wanted to anyway. If she was this saucy... The king would have chopped her head off if she was this saucy to a lord of the land.
Yep.
I don't know. Well, we'll get the reckoning at some point in these 2 months that we're reading this book.
I can't. His dad just needs to, like, suck a big one.
I know, and I hate the, like, I don't know. It hasn't, now I'm trying to think to make sure, but it hasn't happened in my family that anybody has been, like, the person I've dated, like, compared them to somebody else that I've dated. But it does happen to a lot of people that their family are like, oh, I like this person you're dating more, or I like them less. And it's just like, it doesn't fucking matter what you think.
Yeah. But also, like, they are getting a very one-sided
oh my God, yes.
view of this person.
Yeah.
They don't know all the nitty-gritty.
Yeah. But, yeah. So I dislike all of that. And I know we're not supposed to like Chaol's dad. That's part of the point. It's part of the point of trying to, like, turn our minds to make us like him more. But it just, this moment makes me feel like we're pitting women against women with Yrene against Aelin, and I just don't like it. And whether it's a man in the book saying it, I'm like, the author has written it, so that's how we feel. And I don't like it. That's just it. So anyway, Yrene then says that Chaol's dad is exactly how she pictured he would be. And Chaol tells him to prepare or he'll deserve everything he brings down on Anielle. And then they basically leave. And Chaol's embarrassed by the room that his father gave him because it's not like a special room. It's like a room that they reserve for nobodies.
Yikes.
But Yrene says it was on purpose and his father's basically trash. Which, fair. And Chaol then says that she was brilliant. And his father has actually agreed to begin evacuations of the people. So, like, he's doing the right thing. Are we going to be happy about it? I suppose. And then, what?
I said, are we?
Right? I don't know. So then he apologizes for his father and then she says she's sorry that he has had to deal with his father for his entire life, which is such a funny comeback. Adorable. And I love it. Like, it's just so good. And then Chaol says that he wishes that she was meeting his mother. And I'm going to spoil this entire book for a second. So skip ahead 30 seconds. But it makes me sad that we never meet his mother.
Yeah.
Or his brother, really. It's weird. This is why we need a story.
Yeah.
But then he says that his father actually just sees his mother as an asset, so likely sent her off with, like, a bunch of riches to be safe away. And this is when he says that, like, Anielle is really rich. His father just doesn't use any of the money. He just hoards it like a dragon. Yrene says that she wishes that they got more healers to come, but Chaol's like, any healers you bring here are more than have been here in ages, so, like, you've done a lot, and they'll make do. And Yrene asks if the keep can hold until the soldiers come, and Chaol says it's stood for 1,000 years, and people are escaping through mountain passes, so, like, they'll figure it out, basically. Yrene asks to help those who can't run and see if any can help the healers. So, like, any of the people that have to stay behind and can't be evacuated, if they can, I guess, help set up a healing room.
Where are they even going to, like, I know, but, like, they're like, oh, we're gonna evacuate everyone. Where?
Yeah, it's just, like, through the mountains and into the wilderness and hope they live.
Great.
Like, I think I'd want to take my chances staying. Like, I actually don't know. It's like this whole... this is a tangent. But everyone's like, do you have your end of the world bag prepared? And I'm like... zombie apocalypse times, if the world ends, like, I'm not gonna be one of those people running unless it is running to the liquor store to get some alcohol so I can drink myself to sleep or death. Like, I'm not trying to live through the end of the world. I'm not trying to live through the apocalypse here. Wouldn't be me. I wouldn't be running into these mountains.
See, I totally would. Even though I'm not a great runner, I would still be, like, gunning right for it.
Yeah. I don't know, but I don't know. Like, would you rather slowly die of cold and possibly live if you got away far enough? Or quickly die in battle? Or slowly? Also a possibility. I guess both are possibilities either way.
I mean, I'd rather not die at all.
Well, yes. Well, you know what? If there's a zombie apocalypse, why? Why would I want to live through that? The fear alone, the anxiety that you would have, and I have enough daily anyway. I don't need the added.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah. Anyway, that's our tangent on the apocalypse.
Zombie apocalypses.
So, Chaol basically thinks that she's more of a lady than any he's ever met. And she says, let's prepare for war. And he sees that she is, like, anxious and a bit afraid, and he sweeps her into bed.
Of course, because that's their go-to.
Yeah, that's why she's pregnant. In
don't
the morning...
Remind me.
What?
I said, don't remind me.
I know. So in the morning, they wake up and they see enough rooks in the sky to blot out the sky. And they land, and Chaol thinks of the dam nearby, because I guess they land on it, and how if it lets go, it will cause destruction and flood everything.
Amazing.
We're like, okay, good. What's that? Cool. Okay. And then the Rook riders set up camp, and Nezrin and Sartak and Falcon fly up and tell Chaol and Yrene that Morath is 3 to 4 days away. And it's an army of Valg and men, but there are no witches, which is interesting. 1,000 Rooks don't look like so many when they're on the plains in front of war, and 10,000 men, I guess, are coming towards them.
Yikes.
And then we pop over to Aelin's point of view. And I think I talked about this section last week a little bit. But Aelin and Maeve are where they always have lessons, and Maeve asks her if she knows of the queen who walked through worlds. And Maeve says it's a sad story. And Aelin thinks that she turned 20 3 days ago. And I wonder, like, did she actually turn 20 in real time?
I don't know.
Or
I don't think so.
I don't know either.
I don't think she's that old.
I don't either. But time is passing, so it's possible.
I don't think that much. I thought she was 18 max.
Yeah, I can't really remember. But in Aelin's head, not to spoil what is happening right now, but in her head, she turned 23 days ago, and half of Dornell came out, but her mate swept her away, and Rowan made her feel things in the moonlight.
What a euphemism.
Yeah. And she met him there, and when she showed up, and he was... Oh, no. She met him in Dornell, and when she showed up there, he was next to Maeve's throne, and then they courted each other. So they've had, like, a pretty typical romance up to this point, and we're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
At least the first time you read the book, you are like, wait, I don't understand. But Aelin tells her aunt, in quotation marks, because that's what she calls Maeve, that she's too old for fairy stories. And Maeve tells her she's fairy, and says that long ago, before the worlds were born, a queen was born, but in her world, power wasn't inherited, it was born. And as she grew, her strength grew, and she was different.
Ooh.
And then word spread of her gift, and 3 kings came for her hand to form an alliance. And she picked the eldest brother of the kings for his libraries because she wanted to learn. So they wed, and for a time she was content with her new home and the knowledge the kings were... and the knowledge, period.
Good.
And the kings were conquerors, and I guess left a whole bunch, and she just like spent time in the library and was like, this is the cool shit. Very much Beauty and the Beast if the Beast was gone most of the time.
Yeah.
But she ended up learning there were other worlds living on top of each other, which is like way too much to think about in the like SJM world. But that's what we're getting here. There's worlds living on top of each other where the sun and green existed, because in the world that this queen was born into, it was just darkness. Yikes. And she just kept reading, and the more she read, the more she wanted to see. And Aelin asks if it's possible to go to another world. And Maeve says using the language of existence itself. I guess you can. So I'm assuming that's the word.
Word keys? Word marks.
Word marks, yes, thank you. Word marks. But it has been forbidden and outlawed long before the kings were born. But she kept reading and she figured it out. So she opened a door to a realm of resting, and she found a wayfarer, and then she taught herself how to move from world to world. And she grew tired of her husband's casual cruelty, so she took her handmaidens and left. Which is kind of what we learned in Tower of Dawn.
Yeah. We just didn't know that, well, we knew at the time, but if you read this book first,
yeah,
you would have no idea that the handmaids were scary spiders.
Yes. And then she says that she went to a world where she was queen again, and even her husband didn't recognize her. But he looked and learned what she did, and when he came to the same world, he didn't realize that she was there. Which is just so wild that they came... Because there are so many worlds in this universe, you'd assume. But they both ended up in the same one.
Yeah, but I think that was by design. I think he just followed her steps, because she left all of her, like, notes and stuff. Yeah, so I'm assuming he just did what she did on purpose. So that...
Then you'd think he would realize who she is. Just seems wild.
Yeah. I don't know. Maeve's weird.
Yeah. So, I guess the 3 kings came over, and then 2 of the kings, one of which were her husband, were vanquished, and the 3rd was trapped. So Erewhon was the 3rd. And the queen prepared her people, and the kings made keys, and they were able to permanently open gates with those keys. And she wants to find the 3 keys to protect her new world. And that's like all she's ever wanted, basically. And a ghost of a memory pushes at Aelin, and she asks if the queen found the keys. And Maeve asks if Aelin thinks she did. And she thinks that she's been taught so much here for when she's queen, and then Rowan comes in, and Aelin says she thinks the queen could find them. And Maeve says she didn't, and asks where Aelin thinks they are. And she opens her mouth, and then a chain yanks her back. But she thinks Aelin thinks she's never felt a chain before. And she thinks there's another world where she has a scar on her wrist, where her mate has a tattoo down his face, a sad story of loss caused by a dark queen. And Maeve asks, "Where are the keys, Aelin?" And she says, "No, this isn't her life." And Maeve laughs. And Rowan flies down, and Maeve snaps his neck, and Aelin screams. And then she's just on the altar. So it was all an illusion.
Oh my god. Like, just think about how heartbreaking that is.
Yeah. Well, she's going through the, like, we know this isn't the only illusion that she's had, but in this illusion, they have, like, a kind of nice chat, and then she watches Rowan die. Like, how many illusions has Maeve shown her where he dies?
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, too, like, she has fabricated this whole life for Aelin, so, like, Aelin has all these memories as if she has lived her entire life. So, like, think about how long, like, she feels it is. Like, she literally feels like, in that vision, she has lived for 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so think about, like, living your entire life and then waking up and being like, oh, that wasn't real.
Yeah. And, like, she was starting to, in her mind, be like, this isn't what I think is right, or, like, what I remember, or, like, she was starting to break out of it a tiny bit, but, like, Rowan, after losing who he thought was his mate, was depressed for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how many visions have ended like that? And then she's just like, ugh, broken.
Yeah.
It's just heartbreaking. And also, now, she's strapped down to the altar, which she's, like, in a much worse place, and, like, fuck.
Yep.
And Maeve asks if she liked that vision, and Aelin's like, okay, it wasn't real. And then she tries to move her arm, but her bone is, like, broken and sticking out of her arm in a bunch of places, and that is, like, the grossest imagery.
Yeah, it's so gross.
And she notices that her arms have no scars. So she's like, well, like the manacle scars, she's like, well, is this actually real life, or is this another illusion?
Yeah. The scar thing comes up, like, the fact that her skin has no scars on it, her hands have no calluses, comes up repeatedly, like, over and over and over again. Like, that alone causes her so much distress.
Yeah.
Right? Because the scars have sort of been a way of defining herself, and her, like, overcoming her struggles, right? The scars on her back, like, sort of remind her that, yes, she was in Endovier, but she got out. And, right? Like, and now everything is wiped away.
And we just had a conversation before recording about getting tattoos. And, like, she had Rowan's tattoo on her back of her family story along one scar, and then Nehemia and, like, all that story on the other. Sam, yeah. And that's all gone.
Yeah.
So it's, like, it's just wild. But that's the other reason why I'm like, if Rowan wanted to get rid of his tattoo, he probably could. But I don't really. Yeah. I don't think he needs to. But
I think he could. I just don't think he would.
Yeah. It'd be weird, though, like, if you fell in love with somebody who had a giant face tattoo and then they just got rid of it, like, would they still be as hot to you? Like, that has to be part of the look.
I guess it sort of depends on what you think is hot.
Yeah. But, like, it would be jarring, I think. You'd have to get used to it. Anyway, this is all asides. And I think we really get into the scar stuff next week. But Maeve tells Aelin that it pains her that Aelin thinks that she's the villain. Which is, we kind of talked about it before, about how, like, she's really trying to be a girl's girl. She's really trying to be like, I want to make the world a better place.
Yeah. Is she going about it the right way? No.
Her arm is literally in, like, pieces right now. Like, this is not the best tactic. But then she says that, Maeve says that her mate, Elena, and Brennan lied to her about what Maeve wants to do with the keys. And she says that she likes this world and she wants to improve it. And she says a world with no hunger or pain. A better world. And she's like, isn't that what you want? Because that was Aelin's whole thing in the last book, I think. Was like making it a better world for everyone. That's what she's promised everybody, and that's why they're fighting with her. And then Maeve says she knows what the gods want from her, and that she'll let Aelin have Rowan, and her and Maeve will work together to save the world, and also stop the gods, I guess.
But, like, and this is gonna sound so bad, but, like, I do think there's something to be said for this. Like, wanting Maeve as your friend instead of your enemy. Do I think Aelin should give up her autonomy and become and swear herself to Maeve? No. But, like, I do think that there's something to be said for Maeve's offer here, right? Like, instead of fighting two Valg, like, deities and killing herself in the process. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, as much as Maeve is evil and terrible, I sort of feel for her a little bit. You know what I mean?
I do, yeah. I'm like, couldn't you just go back and be like, hey, I'm not swearing the blood oath to you ever. But I will tell you where the keys are so that you can deal with Erewhon, get him out of this world, and then you stay here, and I'll stay in my realm, and we can live cohesively. Yeah. I think they could have made that deal, and I would have been like, yeah, I get why she did it.
Yes, absolutely.
Because, like, another thing, too, is Maeve has lived in this world without attacking anyone for so long. So why do we think that now she would just start going after people in Terracin? Because she did it before. So, I don't know. If she won't do anything with Aelin unless she takes the blood oath, then I'm like, completely fair. Like, don't give up all of yourself to her, because that's a terrible idea. Yeah. But if that was off the table, then this isn't a bad idea. Yeah. We're really changing our minds on Maeve, and which is really funny because, like, I don't know, I just feel like Maeve is the most complex of SJM's villains.
Yes.
And I appreciate
that. Like,
that.
she's not just bad for bad's sake.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I
Which
appreciate that for her.
I like to see that, because honestly, and not that this is only a SJM thing, it's not, but so often when we meet female villains, the reason for them being villains is very one-dimensional, right? Either they're just evil for evil's sake, they're just twisted or warped, or they are because, well, I want that guy that is obsessed with you, and I want him. Yeah. Which favorite. I just don't think that's a valid excuse, right? Like, I think we need to stop writing, and I say we very loosely, not me.
The human race of authors.
I do think that authors need to stop giving their female villains such flimsy reasons for being pieces of shit.
Yeah, I agree.
So, like, at least Maeve has, like, a very complex backstory as to why she's here and why she's doing the things she's doing. Yeah.
And, like, I was kind of thinking, like, Erewhon isn't super developed, but he's doing everything for his brothers and to get to a new world for them. So, like, I feel like we don't really delve into him as a villain like we are with Maeve right now, obviously, because we don't really get the chance to. But I do think he's not evil for evil's sake, really. Like, their race is evil for evil's sake. Yes. Like, that's the whole thing about Valg. But the fact that, like, he does have a reason too that isn't flimsy, I guess. I just feel like the characters are really well developed in this book.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree with that.
But yeah. So, Maeve, so she says that it pains her that Aelin thinks she's a villain, and then Aelin looks over and sees that they repaired the box and, like, welded new slabs over where she damaged it last week, and it's actually going to be even more suffocating now. So that's awful.
Hey, that wasn't last week.
Oh, yes, that was this week. That was earlier today. Sorry, guys. Lots happens.
Yeah, it's but to be fair though, it is hard to remember when stuff happens when we're just talking about so much.
Yeah.
And then it's definitely hard to keep it straight sometimes.
Yeah. So yeah, earlier today. Maeve then asks Aelin if she knows what iron does to your body as time goes on. And she's like, your magic needs to release, which I guess we kind of got a bit of in Heir of Fire.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting. I guess there was just no magic in the world, so her magic didn't need to release until she shifted into her Fae form again. But now, like, Aelin in her body knows that that's true, and she feels that her magic needs to release, and it's like a pressure on her, as well as all the other shit she's dealing with. So
yeah,
we're like, great, let's add another thing. And then Maeve says that she's leaving for a few days because Aelin isn't progressing how she would like her to, and a Valg prince has made it to these shores with a collar, so she's going to get the prince and collar. And then, obviously, collar Aelin. Which is worse, I think, than taking the blood oath. You lose yourself even more.
Yeah. And to be fair, I think that if Aelin had to choose, I think she would absolutely do the blood oath instead.
Yeah, but the blood oath, too, like, you can
work around it.
Well, you can work around it, but you can also word it in specific ways. Like, she gave it to Lorcan to be like, don't hurt Terrasen. Did she give it to Lorcan?
Yes. Not yet.
Shit. Okay. Anyway, she didn't. She didn't do that. So, yeah. But you can word it in certain ways that, like, and when she gave it to Rowan, she was like, I want you to protect Terrasen like it's your home. Like, she doesn't want to control them. She gave it to him with love in her heart, I think somebody said before. So it's a different kind of bond. Like, if she was like, Maeve, I'll do the blood oath, but only to promise that I won't fight you and we're allies or whatever.
Yeah.
Not in a, you can control me and I will have to sit at your feet for the rest of my life. Anyway, not the point. So Maeve's going to get this collar, and she says that Cairn will find a way to entertain Aelin while she's gone. And Aelin really starts panicking at the thought of the collar, because that's, like, she saw Dorian. Like, she knows that she will tell Maeve everything if she has a collar on. Like, she's fucked, basically. The healers come and heal her, and they put her gauntlets on. And Fenris blinks 3 times, are you all right? And she blinks back twice, no. And she's just thinking about how bad the collar will be. And that it's going to take over everything that she is, and she'll give Maeve everything. And then Fenris blinks 4 times, I am here, I am with you. And she blinks back 4 times. Cairn then tells her to get up, because Maeve wants her moved somewhere more secure until she's back. So he puts her in the box and says that Aelin is his until Maeve is back. And it's just, ugh.
Yeah, it's that gross, possessive shit.
We get a fun callback here where she thinks that she wants, and it's not fun at all, but it's just fun Easter egg way. But she thinks that she once warned a healer about being moved to a second location. And I think it's the first time that she thinks of Yrene in these books, because we only got her in Assassin's Blade. That's fun. Obviously, the sentiment of being moved to a secondary location because you're going to be murdered, not fun.
Yeah, maybe not so good.
And she thinks that was without word-strewn collars in the mix. Cairn then tells Fenris he's to come because he can't miss this. And yikes. So we leave Aelin not in a great place. We go to Rowan's point of view, and Elide sold their horses, and they're near Dornell now. And they take, like, some secret paths. And when they're close, Rowan lays a trap of rumors to get Maeve to go for the collars. So this is where we find out there is no collar. And Aelin is freaking out.
Over nothing.
Which is so sad.
Yeah.
But also, like, they had to do something to get Maeve away to try to get her. But it's just like, this tumble of events is just so sad for Aelin. They end up going to, like, the top of a hill to see Dornell, and they don't see any lights on in Maeve's, like, palace, I guess. So that's a good sign. And Elide asks if there are only 2 bridges in to Dornell, and Rowan says yes, and then he thinks of Laria because she's buried to the north of here, and that's where he expected to be buried too. And he's just thinking because, like, he thought that she was his mate, and, like, this is, I guess, the first time he's somewhere near her, and he's, like, still grappling with the fact that that all was a lie.
Yeah.
So they talk about how they need an exit strategy because Maeve is going to definitely hunt them down. And Lorcan says it'll take a day to lure her out. And Rowan has been spiraling into his magic for 2 days. And really, like, all of the, like, Lorcan and Gavriel are, like, spiraling into their magic, too. Rowan tells Elide that she doesn't need to come. But then they, like, walk up the hill further, I guess. And they crest an illusion border and see a giant army camped around Dornell. And Elide is like, is this here to keep us out? Because that's crazy. And Lorcan's like, no, it's to keep Aelin in. Which is even more crazy.
It's bad.
Yeah. Gavriel asks if they should, like, contact their allies. And Rowan thinks of his uncle, but he can't really check after any of them after, like, all of his cousins betrayed Maeve. Either his family has fled or they're dead. Maeve would have killed anybody that was behind.
Yeah.
So he's like, I don't have any. I don't have any allies left.
It's like, I have nothing to help you with.
Yeah. Well, and all of his allies are in Terrasen, which is, like, good. So, Elide says that Maeve doesn't know her, and Lorcan's just immediately like, no.
Yeah, of course he is.
And she keeps talking, and every 2 seconds he just interrupts with no, and it's just kind of funny. But she says that Lorcan's not her commander or in her court. And Lorcan says she doesn't know the court, but Gavriel just says that they'll teach her. And Elide says that she's going to go into Dornell and ask after Cairn and be like a jilted lover. And Lorcan is like, no, this is not okay. And Rowan's like, that's a pretty good plan. Let's do it.
But, like, okay, so the only thing that bothers me with this plan is, like, anybody who knows Cairn knows that he's not the sort to have a jilted lover. Because that's not his kink, right? Like, he's got a torture kink. There's no one that's gonna actually come, like, if they survive him.
Yeah.
They're not coming after him.
Yeah, I think she's, like, trying to imply that she's pregnant. But, like, just to get money, I guess? I don't know. There's a lot to it. We go to Lysandra's point of view pretty quickly. She's flying to scout, and she sees 50,000 troops coming towards them. And, like, she's struggling to count them. She's, like, losing her count as she goes through, and she's like, shit, there's a lot.
So, remember, so they have just left. Darrow wanted them to stay close to Orinth. They were like, fuck no, and they just abandoned him.
Yeah, and I'm like, what if they get Darrow while he's sleeping? I don't know where they're coming from exactly, but...
Well, they're probably coming from Morath, are they?
Yeah, but I don't know, like, where they left. Geographically, I don't know where they left Darrow. That's not a word, but I said it.
It's a word now.
Anyway, I don't think they crossed Darrow's path. But she's just like, holy shit, this is a lot. And she notices there are Val princes among them, so that's not good. The two armies end up meeting in southern Terrasen, and they attack, and the queen isn't there to fight. The Ilkin start landing and shatter their defenses, and nobody notices that there's no fire. So, like, that's good, but also if Aelin was there, this fight wouldn't be going this way. So, like, it's a lot. The right flank falls, and Ilias of the Secret Assassins kills a prince, but they use yards and yards, and even the Bane starts to buckle. So, it's not going well.
No.
We go back to Elide's point of view, and she goes into town. And I kind of like this. I like this scene. I like that she's useful.
Yes.
So she left the boys in the foothills, and Lorcan obviously tried to argue, but she, like, grabbed some berries from Gavriel, and she took Rowan's cape, and she took a shirt and mirror from Lorcan. And when she took those things, she noticed that there was strips in the bottom of his bag that he'd been giving her for her period, and she's like, it was him the whole time. And we're like, of course it fucking was. So... She goes to a square and just, like, takes out a mirror like she's looking at herself, but looks behind her and sees some soldiers sitting at a tavern. And her eyes look red-rimmed because of the berries, so it looks like she's been crying. And, like, that was the whole point. So she walks towards them. There's 5 males and 2 females, and she sees, like, one of the females is clearly in charge, and she calls her the commander in her head. And the other female isn't a soldier, but is, like, the most beautiful woman she's ever seen. And that's who sees Elide first. So Elide just says to them that she's looking for someone. And he said he'd be here. And the beauty just, like, feels bad for her because, like, she's limping. She put on her stutter. She looks like she's crying. Like, she's got this knack of making people feel bad for her and underestimating her.
Yeah. That's her, like, it's her superpowers, right? Like, adapting to what, to, like, be what people want to see, right? She's a great actress.
Yeah, agreed. So the beauty asks if, like, she wants a drink or anything, and she says that she's looking for Cairn. And she says that he serves the queen, and she thinks of, like, being on the road with the boys and her period coming and all that stuff to make her face redden. Because she's trying to act, like, shy or, like, you know.
Yeah.
And she says she needs to speak to him. And she says that her name is Fionnuala, which was her nursemaid's name, who was, like, her best friend.
Her only friend.
Yeah. One of the males at the table says, like, you shouldn't be looking for him if you escaped him, which is exactly what you said.
Yeah.
And they say they don't know where he is. And she asks if the queen is in town, in Dornell. And the commander says she isn't. And Elide just knows, like, they're not telling her the whole truth because she's just blubbering idiot, they think. So she's like, well, I have to try better next time. So she goes to stand by the fountain for, like, 20-ish minutes. And then she, like, walks away, like, sadly, and she goes to an alley and tries to, like, wipe some of the redness from her eyes so that she doesn't look quite so weepy at the next place she asks, which I just love that she's, like,
testing it out. Yeah,
I love this scene. And then the beauty shows up behind her, and we're like, oh shit, she's fucked. And then we go to Lorcan's point of view, and it's taking forever, and he doesn't know what he's gonna do if she doesn't come back. Like, he's not going to be okay. He's going to have to go after her. Like, he's really fallen for her. Rowan basically has him keeping watch at, like, the closest spot that she'll come out, so I guess by the bridge. And they scouted a bit and planned ahead, and what they need to do. And Lorcan thinks of, like, I guess they talked about allies again, but he thinks that Rowan's house is either turned, so working with all the other armies, or dead. And they also don't really discuss that they once commanded this army that's now camped outside of Dornow, because they're probably going to have to fight them. And Lorcan thinks Gabriel's going to need a lot more tattoos after this. Which is sad. Then he thinks in 5 minutes he's going to find Elide. And he thinks, his brain, he thinks that Aelin has been trained to endure torture, and Elide hasn't. And I'm like, sure, but Elide's been in town for like half a day, and Aelin has been there for months, so fuck off.
Yeah.
Nobody is trained to withstand Maeve's torture for months.
But this is sort of my issue with Lorcan, is that like he will always put Elide first. And like I appreciate that. However, you're not thinking about the same thing. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's not the same situation at all.
Well, and
so
Elide wouldn't want to be put first in this situation. Like, doesn't that count for something, what she wants? It's just, I don't love, and I get it, too, because, like, up until meeting Elide, he was just a super selfish killing machine who had no feelings. So, like, what can we expect, I guess? Anyway, he hears a whistle, and Gabriel whistles back, and then Elide pops out. And she tells Lorcan she met someone. And she kind of says it in, like, like, not jealous, but kind of jealous way. So then we get what happened. We go back to Elide's point of view, and she's in the alley, and she thought that she was dead. And she literally thinks that she's going to try to withstand the torture. Which is just kind of funny, because Lorcan was like, she can't do it.
Yeah.
But the beauty just says that she wants to talk, because Elide puts her hand on her knife, and the female makes Flame to be like, you know, I can fight you if I need to, but
put your knife away.
Yeah. And she says that her name is Asar, and she says that she's a friend of Elide's friends. And then she says Cairn is a monster. Elide just says she needs to find him. And Asar says she played the part well. And Elide just says, like, where is he again? And she says, Asar says he was here until yesterday. And then he went to the western camp. And she knows because he's not around town being a bastard anymore, like he has been since he took the blood oath. Which is so not surprising that he's going around like a big bad boy.
Yeah, cock of the walk.
I've never heard that before.
You've never heard someone say cock of the walk?
No.
Oh my god.
Hilarious.
I thought you'd like it. It's a chicken reference.
I love it. Yeah. And then she also says that her sister told her that that's where he is. And we assume that she's a commander or something in this army. Elide asks why she should believe Asar, and she says because she's wearing Lorcan's shirt and Whitethorn's cloak. And to tell them that she told her, because she and Lorcan used to be involved.
Oh, dear God.
Which is just funny, and now you're like, oh, we're adding a jealousy element into Elide
but
and
it
Lorcan's story.
Doesn't really...
It doesn't, but it's like she's the most beautiful person Elide's ever seen. Like, you'd think that, like, this is gonna put a little bit of, like, oh, fuck. I'm not pretty enough for him.
Yeah.
And then Asar tells her not to ask after Cairn again, but to tell the boys that what she told her, basically.
Yeah.
And then Elide asks where Maeve went, and Asar just, like, realizes herself out of nowhere that Maeve has Aelin of the Wildfire. And her eyes widen, and she says that was the power they all felt when, like, earlier this week she was beating on the iron box, and, like, if Lorcan and Gavriel felt it from that far away when they're, like, 2 weeks away or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not surprising that people nearby her felt it, too.
Yes.
And then Asara says she doesn't know where Maeve went, but she serves her often, and Maeve is gone. So we're assuming that that's sexual. I assume that that's sexual.
Yeah.
They end up talking for hours, and her sister, the commander, comes over and helps too, and they tell her that the guards are weakest at dawn, and it's their only window. And the only issue is they don't know if Maeve took Aelin with her, or if she's still at camp with Cairn. So it's going to be a risk. Elide asks Lorcan if they can trust Asar, and he says yes, but doesn't know why she bothered, like, helping them at all. And Rowan says that she visited Mistward and met Aelin before. And I actually think that this is, there's a not a deleted scene, but kind of. There's, like, an extra chapter that you can read when they're in Air of Fire, and, like, 3 people visit, and one of them is, like, Rowan's ex, and she, like, gets into a fight with her.
Yes, yeah.
So, if you haven't read that, I'm assuming Asara is one of the people, but I don't know for sure. I'd have to read it again. I haven't read it in ages.
Oh, yeah.
Gavriel says that they need to plan, and Lorcan tells Rowan not to fly in and be dumb, because, like, obviously that's what he immediately wants to do.
Valid point.
But they decide that they'll go, Rowan will go to the south of the camp, and Lorcan and Gavriel are going to wait near the east entrance until they get Rowan's signal, and then they're going to cause a distraction so that all the soldiers go towards them, and Rowan can get to Cairn's tent. And Elide, as the lowly human, is just going to wait and hide.
Of course.
Rowan can't feel Aelin, so he's not sure if she's here, but he knows that he'll find Cairn, and he's going to get answers either way. So either he'll find Aelin and Cairn, or he'll just find Cairn and get some answers, and repay him for every moment of pain that he's given to Aelin. So he prays to Mala, like he did in Air of Fire, and he knows everything in his life has led to Aelin, and he won't let it all end her. And it's just sweet.
That is
sweet. That is where we are ending today. Like, we're ready for the escape. What's the word?
Yeah, I'm very ready
mission.
For the rescue mission. Like, yeah. I'm not, like, I understand why we needed, like, I understand why we needed to for Aelin to, like, stay kidnapped for this long. Mm-hmm. To sort of really understand the amount of trauma and pain that she goes through.
Yeah.
But I'm more than ready for her to get out of there.
Same.
Yeah. So, anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I guess we're going to wrap it up for this week. So, if you want to get in touch with us and share your thoughts on anything you heard in our episode, or if you have any book suggestions for us, please reach out to us by email at coffeeandcoread@gmail.com, or on Instagram or Facebook at coffeeandcoread and coffee.coread on TikTok.
And next week, we're going to be reading chapters 24 to 37, which are the chapters that include everything we're waiting for in this book. Mm-hmm. So make sure to follow along. And if you're enjoying our chats, don't forget to follow, rate, and review wherever you get our content. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you on the next page.